Hi again. Are you ready for the very end of the whole book? Here it is, the very end. And you might remember that at the very beginning of the book, there was the very beginning. So now we're at the very end. Here we go. It was Monday, and it was Ms. Brennan's last week at Awatiu school. She had read the third Hero's Journey stories, but Mr. Tamati hadn't read them all yet. He promised the class he'd finish them today so that they could have their stories to take back home. After Terry had read out the notices, she added, "And one more important thing. Louis built his fence over the weekend." "Congratulations, Louis," Ms. Brennan said. "You used Lucy's fence posts." Louis nodded. "And Mr. Withany helped?" Mr. Tamati asked. "Yep, and he stayed for dinner," Louis said. "Ms. Brennan, now that we know the fence posts are no good as hurley sticks," Jack said, "how will we learn to hurl?" "We want to learn how to play the game," Tim said. "Well, let me think about that," Ms. Brennan said. "I used to play camogie in Ireland, so I can teach you. I'll just have to think about how to get the equipment." "But you're leaving us at the end of the week," Gemma said. Ms. Brennan smiled. "Actually, we need to talk to you about that." "Yes," Mr. Tamati said. "We have something important to tell you. Are you all listening?" Mr. Tamati waited until everyone was quiet. Then he continued. "The teacher who is going to teach you next year is moving out of Awatiu and will be teaching somewhere else. Luckily, because Ms. Brennan finishes her teacher training at the end of this year, our principal asked her if she'd like to teach your class next year." "And I've said yes," Ms. Brennan said. "I'll be teaching you next year." The class clapped and whooped. When they quietened, Ms. Brennan added, "And I might ask the principal if we can buy some hurley equipment so I can teach you all how to play." The class clapped again. Ms. Tamati held up his hand and everyone was quiet. "We thought that news would go down well," he said. "But now it's time to do some maths. Miss Brennan's going to work on fractions with you today." Mr. Tamati made his way down to the back of the classroom so that he wasn't in Ms. Brennan's way and stopped beside Louis's desk. In Mr. Tamati's hand was a bunch of papers. Louis saw the heading, "The Hero's Journey," on one of them. "Good news about Ms. Brennan teaching you next year, isn't it, Louis?" Mr. Tamati said. Louis nodded, smiling. "Sometimes, if we practice having smaller changes, when a big one comes, it's not quite so difficult," Mr. Tamati said. "Do you mean Ms. Brennan being our teacher is a small change?" Louis asked. "I do, yes. It's not a change you'll be worrying about all summer, is it?" Louis shook his head. "I'll expect you to pop in to say kia ora to me next year, though." "Don't worry, I will, Mr. Tamati," Louis said. "I'll never forget you." Mr. Tamati smiled. "Louis, it would be impossible to forget you too. When I'm 90, I'll still remember a red-haired boy called Louis and his tui named Cloudbird. He took his glasses off and wiped them with a tissue. Come to think of it, I'll remember a whole bunch of kids from Tui Street, and those memories will always make me smile." Up the front, Ms. Brennan asked the class to look up at what she'd written on the whiteboard. "I'd better sit quietly down the back so Ms. Brennan can get on with fractions," Mr. Tamati said. "I'm going to read some stories now, stories about heroes and their journeys." And that is the very end of Tui Street Heroes. And I hope you've enjoyed it. And I'm so glad I got the chance to read some of it aloud to you. And I hope you're happy with the ending. You can always let me know on my website. Never worry about going onto the contact bit and letting me know your thoughts. All right, take good care, everybody. See you later.